Hi. In the previous video, we wrote few lines of code using Mistral SDK and send a message to LLM and get the response printed on the console. However, we used non-streaming functionality. We will now see how to stream over the response that we receive from the LLM. Once we are done with this, I will take you through a real world use case wherein we will learn how to harness the power of LLM for business purposes. So this is what will be covered in this video. Stay tuned. This is the code that we have already written. And in this code, we are getting the response and we are simply printing the response on the console. We are not streaming over the response. Now we will learn how to stream over the response and you will see it is absolutely simple. Instead of making any changes in the same piece of code, I will just simply copy paste that entire file. I will give the name as with underscore streaming, so that we have both the source code with us. And then here you are. So instead of using chat.complete, I will say chat.stream. That's it. Internally, it makes use of two different APIs. The complete method ends up using completion API, which gives you the entire response in one shot. Whereas in case of stream, it will stream the response. This is a different API under the hood that it uses, not the completion API. So here you are, Mistral underscore client. Well, if you go to the documentation of Mistral, you will find both of these APIs available. And I would like to make an important point out here, friends. And the point is, instead of using this SDK, Mistral SDK, you can very well use simple plain library of Python called requests. Request is a very extensively used library in Python. So you can use that library and you can send a dot post, using request dot post. You can send a post call. You can send a post request to the API. And to which API? The under the hood, as I said, that this SDK also uses the same API. Those APIs are very well documented in the documentation of Mistral docs. You can just simply go over there, get that documentation and go through that documentation, get the APIs. And instead of using the client provided by Mistral, this SDK, you can just simply go ahead and use the APIs directly. Well, uh, I don't see a reason why would you want to do that when something so fantastic is given to you, because then the verbosity of your program will increase and you will end up writing a lot of code in order to process the responses, in order to send the request and stuff. I will also, but will definitely share in the repository that code also, which does not make use of Mistral SDK, the SDK provided by Mistral. Instead, it uses plain requests library and directly makes a call to the API provided by Mistral. I will definitely share that code, but for now, this is what we will use. So you see this in this particular piece of code in this program with streaming this program. Instead of saying complete, we are using dot stream. But then instead of giving the name as chat underscore response, let us give a meaningful name to the variable here. So I'll say streaming response. Okay, and then here, instead of course, I will not just simply print the entire response, because this will not be the entire response in one shot. I will keep on getting the response from the LLM. So I have to stream over it. And what will I do? I'll use a for loop. I'll say for chunk. I'll say in streaming response. Oh, I better change this, correct the spelling here. I'll say chunk in streaming response. And then instead of just printing the chunk, of course, I do not want to print the entire chunk. I just want to print the message. So I'll say print in brackets and I'll say chunk dot, I'll say data dot, I'll say choices. Again, I'll get choices out here. I'll say choices dot, I'll say delta dot content. This is what I'm going to do. But then you know what, when I do this, it will result into, because print is a out of the box functionality provided by Python. What will this do? It will automatically put a backslash n after printing each and every content that is received. We don't want to do that. Why? Because the content itself will contain a backslash n, because the content that we receive, the response that we receive is a formatted response, and it is actually usually all of these LLMs, they return the response back in a markdown format. So what I'm going to do here is that I'll say end is equal to, I'll say double quotes, which only means that do not end the print statement, do not print the content, and do not suffix after printing it with a backslash in. Instead, just simply blank. Just don't put a backslash in. That's it. We are done. And now see, the only change we have done is here. I say dot stream. We just changed the name of the variable here, and then we have we are running in a loop, and in that loop we are using this print statement, and we are saying n is equal to double quotes. That's it. No difference at all. Here you are. Now see this. The same thing. You see now? See how we are getting the response? Can you see this? See, it's streaming. It is streaming, instead of getting the entire response in one chunk. Now, this gives you exactly the same behavior that you experience while using the chatbot of any LLM. All right? Perfect. Now, next, what we are going to do next is that we will learn how to have a complete chatbot which does not break. Now, here, after printing this entire response, the program will terminate because I have hard coded the message that is sent, and whatever response I receive, I am printing that response. But instead of this, you see, my program is completed. I want to build a real life kind of a chatbot. And then once we have built that chatbot of our own, which will be almost as the same as the experience that you get while using the chatbot of any one of these LLMs. Once we have built that, as I have been saying, we will then learn how to build a real world use case that will harness the power of LLM, for our business purposes. We will write code in order to get the data from the database. We will submit that data to the LLM, and then we will ask questions, we will ask queries, we will send messages with respect to the data that we have set as context to the LLM, and then we will start getting the responses. Those responses will be on our data.